My name is Joseph Byamukama. I am married to Daphne. We have 2 boys. And I do pastor a church, a young church plant in Kampala called the Fount Church. Just 10 months into it. I also do theological education. I do theological research. I lead an organization called Veracity Fount in Kampala, Uganda as well, which aims to equip the Ugandan church through contextual theological resources and contextual theological research. We do podcasts, we do research on various topics and issues that are affecting the Ugandan church. We have a public library, we have a book club, and many other things that we do in Kampala. The aim really is to help Ugandans, especially Ugandan Christians, appreciate the Christian faith that they have embraced. Yes, I was teaching and speaking about the resurrection, especially as the basis of the new creation, looking at the significance of the resurrection for the Christian faith, but especially for the African Christian, especially in light of the fact that as Africans we feared death and we had no victory over death, and how good news it is, how it is good news to just learn about the fact that there is one who entered the grave and conquered it and came out alive, and what that means then for our life, what that means for how we live, the hope that we have, but also what that means for creation, both the new creation that we anticipate and look forward to at the end of the age, but also what that means concerning our relationship with it. And consequently then how the resurrection is an instrument, a means, God's ordained means to bring about renewal within the church. The church corporate in the sense of, how, for example, it emboldens us to preach the gospel, to counter false teachings, the prosperity teaching, health and wealth sort of teachings, and to look to the glory that is to come, but also how the resurrection renews us individually in the sense that we are able to live for the gospel, to live for Christ in light of the glory that is to come, rather than settle for what this world might offer. So that's a bit of my teaching. It was a good time. I usually love Proclaim, especially because of the networking opportunities it provides, meeting like-minded individuals, getting to be encouraged by people across the continent that are passionate about the gospel, that are doing ministry like you are, and getting to see that actually the work of God is advancing beyond just Uganda or Kampala or even just our locale. It's quite an encouragement always. Yes, I've had a great privilege and opportunity to teach a block class, the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They've been 4 intensive days, so to speak, from 9 to 4, just going through the narratives and especially how the Gospels do portray, depict Christ, his life in history, his death and his resurrection, and different themes as well that begin to emerge: discipleship, the church, suffering, and all that is revealed in the gospel. So it's been quite 4 intensive but beautiful days. I've enjoyed the class. Obviously, the Gospels are rich, very rich, too rich to explore the 4 of them in 4 days. But I think just following the story of each author and seeing the distinctiveness of each Gospel, and the emphasis, of course, there are common materials across all the Gospels, but there are also differences and nuances that each author brings. And so just exploring those, of course, delving into the synoptic problem, the question of the dating of the Gospels and which Gospel relied on which Gospel. Those were good conversations too. But we spent a little bit more time in Mark and just helping students appreciate the theological emphasis of the Gospel, and helping the students appreciate that the Gospel writers are not just teaching us through what they say, but how they say it, and especially as well where they say it. So they teach theology, so to speak, based on what they say and the words they use, the phrases, but also the arrangement and the narrative development, and just helping students appreciate that was quite a great joy. Yeah, I think by and large theological education in, say, Uganda, Kenya, and many parts of Africa has been looked down on, at least from my very own understanding and context. And I remember having a conversation with one of the students yesterday, who is really pleasantly here and was part of the class. And he mentioned how he had never appreciated theological education, and the reason why he had enrolled was so that he could perhaps get a paper in case at some point the government has issues and they need some sort of training. But he mentioned how he was pleasantly surprised as we went through, the Gospels, but especially Mark, to see how enriching the experience is and how it enables him to appreciate the Gospel and who Christ is. He's a pastor, and the importance of his being educated and trained to be able to do, his pastoral work quite well. And we're talking about how pastors are public theologians. They have the responsibility to equip the congregation that God brings their way. And the fact that this congregation comes from diverse backgrounds and they have various questions that cannot just be shrugged off and cannot be merely responded to on the surface. And they need to really understand what we believe as leaders, as pastors, but also as Christians who are tasked with being witnesses wherever we are. And they need to understand the gospel once for all handed down to the saints. And so theological institutions like NIRT and Africa International University and Uganda Christian University and other institutions, Central Africa Baptist University as well, the importance of those institutions is in grounding the present, current, and future leaders of the church. And the fact that the work of mission and the work of the church can only go further as far as those who carry it out are equipped and are trained and transformed. But ultimately, really also the work of theological training is to enable us to value Christ more. It's not merely for what we can do with it out there, but also to see Christ well, his person, who he is, and his work in history and his work in the world as such, and how then we can very well participate in it. And so this is a call for not just pastors or potential theology teachers as well, but for every Christian to consider growing in their understanding of the Christian story. And I think theological institutions are such an excellent place to start.